Happy time zone, everybody, and welcome back to Watching Now, where we are currently discussing Season 3 of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Today, we are talking about Episode 9 called Terrarium. My name is Michelle. Yeah, I see, I wasn't even going to do it. My name is Michelle. I will be hosting again today, and with me I have Master Drew and the young Padawan himself, Tim. How are you doing today, Tim?
Very Padawanish.
How does one be Padawanish?
I don't know, but It seemed appropriate, so I'm going with it.
You're working on it. Cool. How are you today, Drew?
I feel like a Gorn that's had its leg eaten off and is trapped on a moon of a gas giant right now. Like I'm and if you can hear it in my voice, that's kind of the feeling I feel. I feel like that Gorn right now. So I'm excited to kind of get into today's All Ortegas episode.
Does it help
if he starts trilling and clicking?
Yeah. I'll just provide one word answers. Agreed.
Agree.
Yeah, agree.
Agree.
Disagree.
Does it help if I tell you don't look like that Gorn that's stuck on a moon?
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Much. Yeah.
Well, I do want to make it clear to our audience, moving on from that discussion, that there will be spoilers for this season. So if you'd like to watch without knowing anything, which I highly recommend, just tune out now. It will become increasingly difficult to do so as we move on. So, all right, let's just go ahead and get general reactions from everybody. Just like that. All right, Drew, what do you think? Since you were not here last week, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I kind of back to form. I still don't think it's where I wouldn't put it up there with like the best of Strange New Worlds episodes, but it was good. It was a good Star Trek episode overall. I like these episodes. I like the bottle. I don't want to call them bottle episodes, but like when they kind of pair off a character and we get to learn a lot about that character. And I mean, we this was, and we'll come to learn this is kind of like a callback to a TOS, another TOS callback. The show's pretty big on them. But I mean, like even DS9 did this with Kira Nerys and the Cardassians, and like they've done this, and those are always real strong because it's like you find the character that has like this really strong, I don't want to call it like just hatred or like they're
biased would be a light word
biased,
for it.
yeah, thank you, biased towards like an enemy, and they need to learn more, and they come to terms with that enemy. And I think this episode was really strong in the sense that it had a lot of great working through problems, which is why I like Star Trek when they work through problems scientifically and use that sort of Star Trek kind of brand of like science in a way where like, what if we just did the warp core bubble and solved the day, and you're like, okay, cool, whatever, that's great, let's do that. So it had all those great moments, and I was pretty overall I'm pretty high on this episode. It's pretty good.
So they were basically Space MacGyver is what you're telling me.
Yes, Space MacGyver. Yes.
Tim, what did you think of the episode?
I liked it.
Oh, okay.
I really did. So I like the fact that we're back to a space exploration episode where it wasn't just High School Musical drama. It wasn't
just one part of space though.
Yeah, well, that's okay. You got to explore space one little bit at a time. And I liked that we have, because we haven't had a whole lot of Ortegas this season, and it's nice to have a little bit deeper dive into her character, see how she handles things, when she's met with difficulty. I liked that there was only one Gorn instead of a Gorn invasion on this planet, because with as much as the Gorn have been used this season, I'm getting to a point where I'm a little skittish of when I see the Gorn again. Okay, well, what are we going to do with them now?
Mm-hmm.
So I like that it was a one-on-one episode between Ortegas, and I think TrekMovie.com called the Gorn. They named her Liz, so I'm gonna go with that. I'm also gonna call her Liz.
That's fine.
Um, but I'm like Liz Lizard. Okay, deal. Um, but I like that there was only the one Gorn. I like that Ortegas and Liz had to learn how to function with each other, obviously being enemies and some other things, and having an understanding of who each other is. And I was a little happy that Ortega's landed on this planet without a phaser,
Mm.
and and when she was going out and doing her exploration, instead of being able to shoot first and ask questions later, because if she would have had a phaser and saw the Gorn, it would have just been episode over, and it would have just been her trying to survive. Instead, we got a little bit more understanding about about the Gorn actually too. It wasn't just about Ortegas. We're seeing things about the Gorn, and so that I liked. I liked that there was a learning of the enemy, and that there was a learning of self, and there was a learning of how this could possibly move past these things until Lon showed up, and she's like, and down with the Gorn. So
Yeah. I mean, you both make good points.
but
No. All right. Let me hold your hand when I tell you this. Give me your hand. I know this season has not been good, and I've been shitting on it a good bit. I think after this episode, it's just safe for me to say that this is not for me. This show is not for me. The writing is lazy. I'm not enjoying these episodes because it is a direct take from some of the best Star Trek in general episodes. Obviously other series have done things like this of like, let's look past our bias and stuff, but like, I'm gonna go straight to the end where you just mentioned like La'an was like, okay, never mind, bye Gorn, and Ortega's later is like, I don't know how to handle that because the Gorn was my friend, Liz was my friend, and La'an is my friend. I don't really give a shit about that statement because I know nothing is going to come of it. It was just a plot device that was placed into this episode. What's it going to be, a cat fight later? I don't care. And this is directly from Arena, is one of the original series episodes where he originally fights the Gorn and the Metrons show up. Mm-hmm. And then the Next Generation episode where Geordi is stuck on a planet with a Romulan, and Worf has to look past his bias against Romulans and help save them both. So it's also a callback to like when Spock had to flash the engine lights to catch expel all of the fuel to make a flash to catch the Enterprise from leaving, but in doing so they were going to lose all their fuel. So like it's just, they're just taking and picking from other episodes that I don't have the buy-in to this group of actors this time.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is Star Trek noob looking in at this, because I haven't watched all of the Trek that you've mentioned. Obviously, I've seen the Arena episode of TOS. I mean, at this point in life, who hasn't? Whether
right.
A Trek fan or not, you're at least adjacently familiar with the concept of that episode and what happened and everything else. There's been commercials made about it and everything else.
Yeah.
But I know you said that it's picking from other episodes and plot devices and storylines from other episodes. But if we're trying to make a show that is going to be canon specific and canon related, is an imitation the finest form of flattery in this point?
Sure. Yes, and that's a good question. But my statement to that is going to be, yes, if you do it properly. And the first 2 seasons they did. And I think this full season, and I'm not just taking this one singular episode, maybe that's my problem, but I'm taking the season as a whole and saying this just like they're pulling too much stuff from previous things, and imitation is the best sort of flattery, but it can also be considered lazy, and I'm taking it more on the lazy perspective.
Okay, I get that. I do.
I'm sorry to bring the room down.
No, no, no. There's
I listen. I
no.
put
That's
Arena on immediately after this episode. I 15 minutes in, I was like, the pace is better, the storytelling is better. He doesn't even start the fight until like halfway through the episode. The tension is there. Like I was so much more invested than I was in this current episode.
Yeah, I mean, it does have its flaws. I mean, and I constantly felt like I was checking my watch
Mm.
when I was watching this. It felt like long. Like it felt like it didn't feel like an hour. It felt like an hour and a half, and I was like, "Wow, this is really dragging. They're really dragging this out. There's not a lot here." Um, but again, I think to your point, I hate to keep making excuses for them. You're right; they are stealing, if you want to call it, or taking from. And but Star Trek's always done that. They've never
They
been
have,
one.
yes.
They've never really been one for. I don't know. There's always been those tropes, right? And this is one of those tropes. I do agree that this season seems to really heavily lean on them more
Hmm.
often. So I think that is kind of. I think you're on point. This season does feel a little bit more like, hey, they're. I guess the first two seasons felt more subtle in their winking about like, hey, we're winking to what you know of Star Trek. This season feels like they're using a club instead of
Yeah.
to whack you over the head with it. Like, hey, by the way, this is this thing that we're referencing from this thing from this episode that that you love from the original series. Like, oh, okay, thanks. I would have got it even if you didn't do the thing. Like
Right.
you didn't need to slap me in the face with it. Like they just seem the nuance isn't there. I agree with a lot of what you're saying too. That's why I'm like it's a strong episode. I think the acting's done well. I think the effects were incredible.
Yeah. The
And I thought
technology was awesome.
super cool. There's like a lot of cool moments, and I'm sure we'll get into it. But I do agree that it's still not executed in the best way it could have. Right? Like
Yeah.
there's still moments where I feel like, man, like that. This is great, but it's just not super great. Like it's not really great.
I just
Like
feel
that
like
we've seen before.
I feel like the passion for the first two seasons really exuded, and it was the passion for Star Trek, not a passion for making their own show. And I think
okay.
the passion for Star Trek is what made it great because, like you were just saying, it's winks and it's subtleties, and now this, yeah, I think he said that really well.
Lem- Let me ask this again. Star Trek noob viewpoint. Is it possible that the winking and the subtleties were because they were setting up the show in the first two seasons, and the closer that we're getting to the TOS, the more blatant they're trying to make the timelines align and storylines come together?
Yes, but here's my thinking, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna talk a lot apparently.
That's
My
fine.
my thought is like the original series sets everything up, right? We're getting to the original series. It's the shock and awe of the Star Trek timeline. It's what it needs to come out with a bang. Everything that we're doing leading up to that doesn't have the tenacity of Star Trek. It doesn't have the discipline of the Academy, and it foundationally it is, and fundamentally it has just become a different show than something that should lead into what the
Hmm.
original series then becomes.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know. I'm
No,
sorry.
I'm not I'm not in a position to disagree with you because I don't feel like I've watched enough Star Trek to have a valid opinion one way or the other
Sure.
as far as that's concerned. I'm looking at this from a storyline perspective, and I'm okay. So, um, for those of you who hate the other Star universe, plug your ears for a moment because we're going to talk a little bit about Star Wars for a second.
Listen, I
But
already
in
called you a
Star Wars,
Padawan, okay?
that's right. But okay, so like in Star Wars though, when we're some of the shows that are leading up to a climactic point in the storyline, like you look at the story of Andor, the first season had a lot of subtlety and nuance and callbacks and things like that. Season two dove directly into storyline and was blatantly borrowing storylines from other things and making so that all these paths converge and get back to the the same point as before. And I'm wondering if that's the same thing that we're seeing now in Strange New Worlds, where the first couple seasons are nuanced and winking at the storyline, but as we're getting closer to that finish point, we've got to have storylines that are going to be more directly, you know, pointed at and looking at that finish line of TOS, because that is the finish line that has to be accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
By the end of the 5th season, that final episode, we have to have a solid jumping point from Strange New Worlds and everything they've done to the start of TOS.
But I think that allows them to be more bold, right? Because if, like, for example, Ortegas, like I mentioned this before, when she got skewered by the Gorn earlier in the season, I was like, oh wow, they might kill that. They could. This is one of the few characters on the show that doesn't have plot armor, right? Like she could
Sure.
die, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Like, because she's not in TOS, right? She's not canon in the sense
Sure.
of like we know that she's around. So, and again here in this episode, I'm like, is this the episode she dies? Like that, I would like
I
if
thought
they
so.
really
I
wanted
thought they
to.
were gonna have to leave her. Yes.
Yeah, I was like, that would have, like, these are moments where the show could take incredible swings in the genre, right? And Star Trek, where we're like, oh wow, like I didn't expect that, right? Because they can play with that, right, a little bit better, right? Obviously, they're not going to kill off Ahura or Spock, right?
Right.
You know, like those are two characters we know that are safe. So if you put Ahura on that planet, it becomes less exciting for me anyway,
right.
from my standpoint. So,
Agreed.
so I hear you where you're coming from, where they're kind of, you feel like they're shoehorned because they have to find this place, but I'm like, yeah, but you're not. You still have a lot of latitude here. Now play with it. Like, let's have
Yeah.
fun with it, or take bigger risks with your characters in your moments. And I thought some of it worked really well in the episode. Again, putting her on the planet, and there's moments where I was like, man, it would be really cool if they were like, we can't. She didn't make it. Like, you know, there were like they did everything right, and they still couldn't save her. Like, that would have been a learning lesson for everyone on that ship.
And that
You
would
know
have
what
left
I'm saying?
a hole
And Ahura
for
right?
the next
You know?
episode. You know, that would have been one of
Yeah.
those underlying stories
Yeah.
that can continue like Star Trek usually does. I'm sorry, I completely interrupted you with that, but that is a good train of thought, because if they did everything they needed to do and she still had to be left, that is a perfect example of an underlying story that you don't necessarily need to know going into the original series, but you can go into the original series, or you can watch that episode and understand that that's there for the
Yeah,
future.
I thought a couple different times last night that number one, they were going to leave her on that planet, and that two, this is also where Ortegas dies. Not that I want to get rid of Melissa C. Navia. I think she's a wonderful actress, and I think she does her job as Ortegas very, very well. But I thought, much like what Drew was saying, she doesn't have the plot armor.
Mhm.
There's nothing, you know, at some point, either she's going to die or she's just going to be not written into the story anymore, because she's going to go off to another ship and move on, and we never hear from her again. But I really thought last night, and it's funny too, Drew, you said you kept checking your watch. I kept pausing it to watch when I was watching it to see, how much do we have left? How much do we have left? So I get the point about the pacing of the story. I did think it felt a little long in the tooth. I thought there was a lot of positives, though, from last night's episode. I would like to see them take a little bit bigger of a chance and a little bit bigger of a swing. I wouldn't have minded if Ortegas was left on that planet and we circle back in a couple episodes and continue that story arc for what she had to go through, and then like, hey, we had to leave because we had this I don't remember what planet was that they mentioned, but they got to take this
The
vaccination there,
Mhm.
to cure thousands of people, and but yeah, I thought that was kind of where this was headed. I have to say too, though, that I was a little surprised that Ahura fudged the numbers on the scan.
Okay. That was something that we needed to bring up, because
Okay.
she did scrub the numbers. And that is something that leads completely into what I was mentioning earlier of like fundamentally and foundationally things are different because that is an immediate court martial. What do you mean? You fudged the numbers and then lied to your captain about it.
Put the whole ship in jeopardy.
But what? You don't do. Come have a sergeant tell me that they lied to their corporal, or sorry, their colonel. They don't even talk to colonels on a regular basis. They lied to their colonel on the probability of success of a mission that could have potentially killed a bunch of Americans. That guy's gonna go on trial.
Yeah, I thought that was a little odd and kind of out of place. That and it looked to me like Spock was looking over her shoulder and could see her hitting the slide bar, and he didn't say anything.
Mm-hmm.
Was that just me, or did you think the same thing, that Spock was watching her, fudge the number from 56 to 61?
Yeah, well, and I don't really know what it added to, because then Pike gave her an out, and he was like, I was gonna
Correct.
save her. I was gonna save her regardless, right? Like, I don't think it did anything to, like, I agree, it was a weird moment. It was a weird character moment, and then it didn't really have any bearing, right? Like, there's no
It felt
consequence
flat.
to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Completely.
Because of who the character is and how virtuous she has been up to this point, and what we know of Ahura and TOS, and how that character acts and holds herself later in life. So what I'm curious is, are we going to see this as a callback in later episodes where she's learned something from this, or something has happened, or is this just going to be brushed over and we're just going to move forward? That's what I'm curious about.
And that's what I'm afraid of with this. The way this season is going, I feel like it's just going to get brushed under the rug and then we're never going to talk about it again. But that is a character altering decision.
Yeah, I
I
think
don't
so,
know.
because it's against the mythos of the character and who she is and what she is,
Right.
and what she's proven to be up until this point. So I was out of all the things that happened in last night's episode, that was the thing that threw me back the most,
Well, and
because I was like, hey, wait a second, that's not how Uhura would act.
right, and I understand they were probably trying to make it, well, this is going to be an emotional moment and emotion takes over in the moment and blah, all this. Whatever excuse you want to find is it just won't fly in that type of setting. That just really grinded my gears. Since we were talking about Erica and the Gorn, um, Tim, I'll start with you. But what did you think of the relationship that eventually blossomed between Erica and the Gorn? Like, and the second part to that is, what, or do you think we're done with Erica's Gorn issue now?
I hope so.
Okay,
That's where I'll leave that one. I kind of hope I'd like to be done with the Gorn in total for a while.
sure,
We've poked that bear enough,
a lot.
and we've used the Gorn more than they've ever been used in the history of Star Trek. And they're a cool enemy, but there's lots of other cool things out there, and there's other enemies to pursue and figure out and find out about. And I'd like for that to start happening. However, I think that the relationship between the two of them, and again, I'm going to go back to Star Wars, kids. So just take a deep breath. Uncle Tim's not saying one's better than the other. Just work with me here. So there's an episode of Star Wars Rebels where one of the members of the Ghost has to work with one of the members of the Empire, and it's a act of necessity for their survival. And so it's kind of the similar story to what we're seeing here.
yeah.
And we see, in Star Wars, in Rebels, we see Zeb and Callus having to work together in that episode, and they're stuck against impossible odds, and they've got to learn to respect the other's strengths and learn to adapt to the other's weaknesses. And so that's kind of what we're seeing here. It's the enemy of my enemy is my friend type of situation. And I don't know. The thing I like about those episodes is it helps us to see each of the characters in a different light, and it helps us to look at them definitely in a way that maybe we haven't before. Because whenever we've seen the Gorn and we've talked about the Gorn or thought about the Gorn, yes, we know they're intelligent. Yes, we know that they hunt and how they hunt, and but we learned a little bit more about the reason why they study their prey, and that they're not they're studying out of respect, and they're studying to try and figure out their enemy, and it's. But the thing I don't like about these type of episodes is that they're very formulaic,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the only thing that was different about the formula for this one is that at the end they both didn't walk away happy with an appreciation for one another. One of them got transported off the planet, and the other one was a pile of lizard skin, waiting to be boots. So,
Not boots.
not boots,
What
maybe a
about
handbag.
purses? Oh, there we go.
They could be a handbag. But yeah, so
Immediately taken down.
all of 3 seconds of Lon being on the planet, and screw you in particular.
Immediate.
Yeah. So I like these episodes, but I don't like these episodes. It's a risk reward. I think every time one of these episodes is played out, no matter what science fiction series we're talking about or space fantasy series we're talking about, there's a high risk reward. It all depends on. The thing is, we're not going to know what the payoff of this episode is until the next episode. And that's the thing, in my opinion. You're not going to know what the payoff of this is and what actually happens with Erica moving forward until we see what's going on. And Drew is rustling in his chair.
I know.
He's
I was like,
biting
I
at
see
the
that
bit.
face, Drew.
He's over here. He's like, let me at him.
Hold on. Go ahead.
He's like, let me school the noob. Go for it. I'm waiting.
No. There's nothing to school. I mean, you're 100% right. I mean, these episodes are formulaic, but I think that's why they work. I think they touch on something human that, and purposeful that we all struggle with, which is getting to know or learning from the other side, right? People we hate. Like it would be like putting a Democrat and a Republican on a lifeboat, and being like, get along, like figure it out. And I like, so I'm always gonna like these kind of episodes because I think it's just built on how it's executed, and I thought this one was executed fairly well. I think a lot of it had to come down with just how believable they made the Gorn. Like, because you really couldn't understand. It had no words, right? Like, for one character had 0 words, right? Like clicks and noises. So Erica Ortega's had to like carry the episode, and I was surprised at how well I thought she did to do that, right? Like, and I thought this was the first time I had ever really, like, her character, the way she plays her character as sort of like this space jock, worked really well for this type of episode, right? Like, because you would expect her to talk to herself. She's just that kind of person. Does that make sense? Like, where she's gonna like narrate.
I thought that was actually funny, the way
Yeah,
that she
like
talked to herself.
yeah, exactly. Like she's just that kind of like she's like a jock, right? Like she's just sort of like so just like she's in that like she has that kind of personality. So it worked really well for this episode, and also to kind of like self-narrate and self-deprecate even like the scenes with the Gorn, like, now are you gonna eat me, like these moments of levity where she's speaking out loud as she would because she has no choice. She's not a silent contemplative type, right? Like, it's not like he sent Spock down there where every other word would have just been fascinating and then it would have been even more boring, right? So again, I think this episode worked well because of the character choice of Ortega's and how well she played it, considering that she really had. She's like my least favorite character on the show. So she's the show did a lot of good work to making her more relevant or for me or more interesting in my eyes. So again, I kind of want to give credit where credit's due there. I thought she did a great job, and I thought the prosthetics team and the CGI team did an incredible job of making the Gorn very emotive, considering. Like, I thought that was really well done, because you could kind of get a sense of just through its eyes and the way it would open its mouth slightly or shuffle a little bit.
Or its growls and how fast when it was, like, disagreeing. And
Yeah, like, so you could kind of understand when it was Excuse me.
Bit upset.
So
Yeah.
so one of the things I liked about this scene, though, while Drew goes and finds the lung that he just coughed up,
Seriously.
I like the way that they humanize the Gorn, though, in this setting, to make it so that there's an actual interchange between Ortegas and the Gorn, between Liz and Ortegas, and there's they humanized Liz as much as they could, with her still being a lizard and all these different things,
Right.
and being a villainous enemy, and I thought they did a really good job of making the interactions between them legitimate, where we're starting off with charades, but now we've got this yes or no, agree or disagree interpreter where we can answer yes or no questions with one another. And I like that we went from that to playing chess and whatever the Gorn game was, and
All
she
right,
had to
but
pretend to
I'm
eat
going
the
to
thing.
interrupt you right there. Who the
Yeah, please do.
F thinks of chess first? Who thinks of chess first to introduce to an alien or some literally any? Why is chess the first game you thought of?
I mean, it's
Cause
pretty, yeah, it's pretty common.
What happened
mean,
to
they
like
played-
checkers?
It's been
You
around
do, like,
since like the 18th century or so.
I mean, but they play what, 3-dimensional chess on the and
They
you
do.
got the,
But
so
I don't know,
playing
checkers-
some form of chess, to me that was kind of a no-brainer, because they play chess in so many different ways on this show.
Yeah, fine.
So what difference would it make to have them, with a rock on a
Yeah.
I don't know. That didn't matter to me as much as
I was just thinking
some of
of
the other
being
things.
Ortegas and trying to explain chess to a freaking non-verbal extraterrestrial.
But the Gorn understood her. The
Yeah.
Gorn told her that. Liz told her that she pointed to it and she's like, I can understand you.
Yeah, that's
She just
true.
couldn't communicate back because the clicks and the trilling. All she could do is, have that universal thing, agree or disagree.
Well, and that was something that we mentioned a second ago, that the science kind of got overruled, I think, a little bit, because she made a water condenser. She made a universal translator. She was using the gold Gorn technology that was super cool. Plus the Gorn,
Science, schmience.
the Gorn had like a Titan bubble shield, basically from like Destiny, protecting her and stuff. Like that shit was so cool.
Nice.
It was really cool. Yeah. Yeah, it was really cool.
good. Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought they did a lot of good things in the episode, even when they played around with the sciencey stuff, and it was some of it was more science adjacent than actual and probable science, and that's fine. You got to remember that the second half of that word is fiction when we talk about science fiction, and fiction means it's made up, it's not real. It's there's got to be some level of make believe involved in this, where other than her being on another planet and talking to a walking talking lizard,
Just at least suspend some sort of disbelief, okay?
you got to have that to some degree.
But I like that. There were at least some continuity there. Like we saw Ortegas like earlier in that really bad documentary episode. Like she's a tinkerer, right? Like we clearly see that she's capable of scientifically and building and technology, right? And Starfleet inherently, like you put any Starfleet officer, like Star Trek's been really good about this. Like you put any Starfleet officer on a planet with any other species, they're going to science it better than anybody, right? Like, so they don't have to be a science officer to be science competent and to be able to understand how to take apart a tricorder and fucking turn it into a homing beacon, right? That's just inherent in what Starfleet's training does. Like they teach you the fundamentals of every layer in position, so that when you are stranded on a planet, you have a high rate of survival. It's sort of like that's kind of like its core competence, and I liked that about this show too, where she was very like active in saying like, I'm gonna make a water condenser. I did it. I'm gonna make a homing beacon, like out of this Gorn. That's inherently what I want a Starfleet officer, anyone stranded on a planet, to solve the problem with the limited tools they have, using the technology that they have at hand. So I thought they did a good job there too.
I honestly, I think the only way that this episode could have been a little more entertaining for me, because I thought about this afterwards, after I got done watching the episode, was that as much as I liked I like Ortegas as a character. I like her bravado. I like the way she carries herself and all these things. The only way that this episode would have been better for me is if it would have been Lon on the surface instead of Ortegas. But I understand, the way the story was written, why it had to be Ortegas because of the flying of the ship and as dangerous of a situation as she was in. But if we're looking at it strictly from the standpoint of an interaction with the Gorn and having difficulty with the Gorn and having to be friends with your enemy, and Lon was the better choice for this character time on an away planet. But then again, we would have had the open issue of how do we rectify Ortega's Gorn issue.
So
Yeah,
Tim, what? I'm sorry, Drew. Go ahead.
just to piggyback on that, I mean that I could see in the writers' room them discussing that, because I think they almost set it up in a way that it could have been Lon, because then Spock would have had to make an illogical choice to kind of keep pushing for her, for them to rescue her because of his feelings. So he would have been dealing with his an emotional human side versus his logical side of sending, just leaving and assuming she's dead and getting the vaccine to the
Colonists.
the colonists. So I thought that would have been a good dynamic too. I totally thought that too while the episode was going. I was like, Lalonde would have been probably not a better choice, but just an alternate choice for this episode. And it saddens me to think that like two characters could fit a plot in a way it's so fittingly, and it makes me think that again they've written these characters to, I don't know, like they're too parallel, right? Like it's almost we don't need Ortegas, or we don't need a Lalonde. Like it's like we could get rid of some of these characters, or give them better character development, and that's separate from each other in some way. I don't know. That would be my only point.
Well, and I'm gonna start with Tim for this question, and you'll see why, Drew. But Tim, what did you think of the Metrons at the end of the episode?
I thought they were space weirdos. I really didn't care about them. I was just like, oh, some weird bald dude. Okay. Yeah, I honestly, it didn't do anything for me. And I was like, I know that they're setting up for future things, and it's this callback and all that, but I don't know. I think that you could have accomplished everything in this episode without including the Metrods and having the weird shiny bald dude show up.
Well, why do you think, Drew, that they only show up with the Gorn? It's the only time we see them.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I don't know. No idea. I mean, he clearly says something like, this is not a word for word, but it's like, we paired you two so that you guys could find, common ground or whatever, or right. And I guess it's like Laan sort of, she doesn't fail the test, but Laan does, right, by shooting.
Right.
So therefore, that's why it sets up the test with Kirk and the Gorn in future. So I guess they're hell bent on making sure humans and the Gorn will find common ground, right? Like for some reason, like we don't know why, like no one knows why. They're just these characters in the universe that are all powerful that wants to make sure humans and Gorn get along. I don't know. It's kind of, and again, I don't think we needed to see them, or I don't think, again, that conversation with Ortegas, I don't think needed to happen. Even if you just saw them on the planet after they beamed out, like they appeared, and you just got a sense that there was a higher being at play here, and then the episode played out as it played out. Because at the end of the day, her mind was wiped, and she doesn't remember it anyway. So
right.
It has really no. It was more for fans than it was for show dynamics, right? For plot.
It was fan service for sure.
Yeah.
I thought too, honestly, when they went to to beam off the planet, and you're seeing everybody in mid transport. You just that gold, the ember sheen kind of just standing
I
there.
thought that was a really
I
cool
thought some
scene.
I thought something was wrong with my TV. I'm like, did we freeze? Did things pause? Is something broken? And I'm like, I'm hitting pause, going, yeah.
I thought
And I
that
was
was
like, oh, it's
actually
part
a
of the story.
really
Okay.
that might have been one of the coolest Star Trek shots I've ever seen though, was when they paused that like mid transporter. That shit was pretty cool looking. I liked
It was.
looking at the person. You're half there and you're half split atoms. I don't know. It was really cool.
Once I knew what the hell I was looking at, yeah, then it was cool. At first, it was like, I think this crap's broken.
So I
So.
have one final question. And I think this one still stands after 3 episodes of using the same question. So, Tim, what do you think that the episode brings to the story?
Hopefully the closure to the Gorn. That's what I'm
Yeah,
hoping it brings to the story.
that'd be a nice closure
And
to that storyline.
a return to space exploration. So that's why I'm thinking that this adds to it, because we've kind of danced around this a couple different areas, a couple different ways, and it's needed to have closure in order to move forward. And I'm hoping that this is the closure to at least the majority of the Gorn saga. I can see why that in season 4 or 5, why they might bring something back to maybe kind of button up the lawn stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But as for right now, I think this is a nice bow on all the Gorn stuff, and we move forward from here.
I think I agree with that. Drew, what do you think this episode brings to the story?
Yeah, I'm not sure what it brings to the story overall. Like, this felt a very like a contained episode. It'd be interesting to see if there's any fallout there between Ortegas and the lawn. I don't know. I think that could be something they continue with. That seems like such a powerful moment to sidestep, but but I think if anything, it kind of established Ahura and Ortega's relationship like more close, right, as friendship. Very much a female ensemble there, like between the two of them and La'an, right? Like they kind of like the dynamics there are kind of, it will be interesting, I think, moving forward. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it kind of wipes the slate clean for a season finale that we hope is really good and doesn't really need to like maybe take from here, right? It can kind of just move on from this, and we can move on and have a season finale that does something special and maybe surprises us.
I'm not gonna lie, I completely forgot next week was the season finale. I was just thinking of it as the final episode that like I have one more edit and then I'm done. So I didn't even consider it being the final episode. That's literally how
and done.
Yeah, that's how far off from this season that I am, and that's a little disappointing. But that meant this was supposed to be the penultimate episode. Like, penultimate where? So, all right, let's go ahead and wrap it up with our final ranking. Tim, give it a rank.
This is honestly a 7.5 to 8 for me.
Oh,
I did enjoy the episode
okay.
quite a bit. I think there's a lot of positives to take from it. There's a few negatives, and there's a few things that I question as far as character choices. Like I mentioned earlier with Ahura, that one's kind of kind of stuck in my craw a little bit. That one bothers me.
Mm-hmm.
As far as character choices, but I think for the most part, I think it's pretty solid, and I think it's a good episode moving forward for somebody who doesn't have plot armor, and who we're going to say goodbye to at some point. Like I said, in some form or fashion, we got to say goodbye to Ortegas at some point. And so, yeah, I think this was a nice way to get to know somebody that's going away in a season and a half.
Fair. Drew, what did you final ranking for you?
Yeah, I'm in line. I think I had more. There's more good here than bad. I'm gonna give it a 7.5. To me, the standouts were Ortega's, the actress. I'm blanking on her name all of a sudden. I'm not feeling so
Melissa
hot.
Sinavia.
Thank you, Melissa. Melissa's acting. I thought she did a really great job. She made me, again, like I said earlier, she carried the episode, and she had to carry the episode. I thought she did a really good job. I think the prosthetics team and the CGI team need to get like an Emmy. I thought the work with the Gorn was really well done.
Yeah.
I thought the special effects of the Enterprise next to like going into the wormhole and outside of that nebula looked incredible. Like the colors and the way the ship looked, it looked really like out of a painting. Like I was like, I want to screenshot that. There was some like, and even the gas giant behind, like that was always behind her, looked really cool. Like constantly in motion, like this really it just felt overall like I thought they did from an art direction was very, very strong. Like I could tell they put a lot of energy and thought into how things looked and how they wanted to get emotion across with the Gorn, and the science and the technology looked really good too. Like everything that she was fiddling with. Yeah, I had a lot of good things. Again, I think it felt a little long. I thought the pacing was a little off, and some of the callbacks were just really heavy-handed and didn't need to be there.
There were some really sexy shots of the ship, though.
Yeah,
Looked
totally
real nice.
Some nice spaceborne for sure.
Yeah. Especially with it holding open a wormhole. Come on.
Yeah, it looked cool.
OnlyFans, baby. I'm just kidding. My
Only ships.
my only hashtag Federation ships. I don't know. It's clearly not as bad as Murder Mystery, so I can't go that far. But it's 5 for me. I think. I don't know. As a Star Trek episode, it was a Star Trek episode. I could just go watch the
impressed you
original
gave it a 5.
episodes and enjoy it just that much more.
I'm impressed you hit it with a 5.
Well, because I think I didn't go. I think I went 3 with the Murder Mystery, and it's not that bad. And I don't think it should be a
True.
sub 5 because honestly, everything that Drew talked about, because the episode as a whole, like like exactly what he just said in the art style and everything, and the art direction that they went, that has to hold some type of weight in the scoring. So
Fair.
I think that is a good place to wrap it up because I'm the only one talking. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, thank you guys for being here. Let's go ahead and wrap it up. Tim, where can people find you?
Hello, I am Tim. I am the host of the FSF Popcast and a contributing writer at couchsoup.com. So if you guys aren't already like subscribed to Couch Soup, because I did this whole spiel for Drew last week because he wasn't on the show.
And
I
put your face on it.
picked up the banner. I ran with it. I wanted everybody to know that Couch Soup is awesome. And God dang it, if you're not subscribing, you should be. But also that same thing applies to the FSF Popcast. We interview people all over the sci-fi and pop culture world. So please come check us out. Pretty please, sugar on top. I'm begging. But yeah, we have a lot of fun over there. And yeah, we talk to some really cool actors, writers, directors. So, and you can find us at fsfpopcast.com or at fsfpopcast on all your cool social media handles. Notice I said cool social media handles, so that doesn't include that wasteland called X.
Correct. It's the orbital moon of a gas giant. Drew, where can people find you? And you are muted.
Yeah, Tim nailed it. You just head on over to Couch Soup and you'll find me and all of us most likely, and hanging out talking nerdy stuff like Star Trek, or actually Alien Earth, which is another podcast, and Wednesday, which is also another podcast that Michelle's running with Stephanie, I believe. So if you want to nerd out on that shows and even more, come hang out with us over on couchsoup.com. You can, if you become a member, you get to access this cool little community we got where we're all kind of chatting in there and posting fun stuff, and plus other cool perks, discounts, stuff on merch, and ability to make comments, no ads on the site, all kinds of fun stuff. So it's worth it to sign up, and also supports people, independent creators like us. There's no holding company here. There's no billionaire funding of this. This is just friends and nerds having fun, doing fun stuff, and creating content that we love and want to write about and talk about. So it's worth it if you just want to just support people that are like us and doing good work and doing stuff you enjoy. So please do.
Yeah. And I am also there. I'm Michelle. I'm the community manager at Couch Soup, so you see my face a lot with the AMAs and the Zooms and the weekly newsletter and the podcasts that we run. And I also write. So come on over. It's a good time. But that's it for now. Let's continue to discover new life, new civilizations, and we will initiate shutdown sequence from here. Live long and prosper, and keep it tuned into Couch Soup for more Star Trek goodness. Bye.
Bye-bye.